I don't remember when looking at her stopped feeling innocent. Maybe it was the way she carried herself. Quiet, deliberate, as if even silence belonged to her. That evening, the house was still except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I was supposed to be waiting for my friend upstairs, but I found myself in the kitchen with his mother instead. She leaned against the counter, the loose fall of her hair catching what little light slipped through the blinds. She didn't look like someone trying to be noticed, yet I couldn't look away. "Do you want some tea?" she asked, her voice low, unhurried. I nodded, though I didn't drink tea. The truth was, I just wanted a reason to stay. She moved with a kind of elegance that wasn't practiced. It was simply there, in the way she set the kettle down, in the way her wrist turned as she reached for cups. My eyes kept tracing those details, like they were telling me something her words couldn't. I tried to fill the quiet. "It's the nice evening." She glanced at me, the corners of her mouth curving just slightly, as if she heard more in my words than I intended. "Is it?" she said, almost teasing. That imbalance, her calm, my stumbling, made me strangely restless. I shifted, ran a hand through my hair, tried to stand taller. She only poured the water, steam rising between us, softening the space. When she handed me the cup, her fingers brushed mine. Just a touch, light enough that she could have pretended it never happened. I didn't move. Neither did she, not for a second too long. The heat from the porcelain wasn't as sharp as the heat from her skin. I thought she might say something, laugh it off, but she didn't. Instead, she looked down at the cup in my hands, then back at me. A glance that lingered. A glance that asked something I didn't know how to answer. My throat tightened. I took a sip I didn't want, the bitterness cutting against the sweetness of her nearness. "You've grown up," she said quietly, almost to herself. The words startled me more than they should have. My friend's mom wasn't supposed to see me like that. Not as someone grown, not as someone standing too close. I wanted to reply, but nothing came. The kitchen clock ticked. The kettle cooled. Her eyes stayed on me, steady, unflinching. I set the cup down, fingers drumming against the counter. "You make it sound different," I said, voice uneven. She tilted her head, studying me as if she hadn't decided yet what she meant. Then she stepped closer. Not much, just enough that I could feel the space tightening, the air warmer, the scent of her perfume faint but impossible to ignore. I didn't dare move. My heart was beating in places I didn't know it could. She didn't touch me, not this time. She didn't have to. The silence grew heavy, so heavy I thought it might break. And then, from the hallway, footsteps, approaching, quick, careless. Her hand, instinctively, brushed mine again, firmer this time, deliberate. She leaned in, voice barely more than a whisper, but clear enough to leave no doubt. "If you leave now," she said, eyes locked on mine, "I'll never forgive you." The footsteps grew louder. The door handle turned. And just like that, the moment we weren't supposed to have was seconds from being seen. The door swung open, and my friend walked in, humming some half-remembered tune. His mother straightened instantly, stepping back, the warmth of her hand gone as if it had never been there. She reached for her own cup, her face composed. I swallowed hard, pretending to sip my tea. The taste was sharper now, almost metallic. "Hey, you too," my friend said, barely noticing us. "I'll be upstairs. Just give me a minute." And just like that, he was gone again, leaving behind the echo of his footsteps. The air between us was heavier than before, as if the silence remembered everything. She didn't look at me right away. Instead, she set her cup down carefully, aligning it with the edge of the counter. A small act of control, though her hands trembled just slightly. "I shouldn't have said that," she murmured. I wanted to ask what she meant, but the words tangled in my throat. "Instead," I said quietly, "I wasn't planning on leaving." That made her glance up, sharp, searching. For a second, it felt like she was measuring who I was, who I had become. "You remind me of someone," she said finally. "When I was younger." Her voice carried something heavier than nostalgia. Regret, maybe. A memory she hadn't shaken off. I thought of the way she moved around the kitchen, the way her smile always seemed to come with a shadow. "You were married once, right?" The question escaped before I could stop it. She hesitated. "Once. A long time ago." Her eyes lowered. I caught a flicker of something. Loneliness sharpened into habit, the kind that lingers even when you pretend it doesn't. I wanted to reach for her, to close the gap, but instead my fingers just brushed the rim of my cup. "You ever miss it?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Then, softly, "I miss being seen." The words pressed into me, deeper than she realized. Because that's exactly how I looked at her. Like someone I couldn't ignore, someone who filled the quiet spaces without trying. She moved past me then, close enough that her shoulder grazed mine. The brush was accidental in form, deliberate in effect. My breath caught. Hers quickened, just barely. "You shouldn't look at me that way," she whispered. I turned, unable to stop myself. "Then stop standing so close." The words surprised me as much as her. For a moment, neither of us moved. Her lips parted like she might answer, but no sound came. Instead, she let the silence carry it, heavy and undeniable. She reached out, fingers brushing against my sleeve, lingering just long enough to leave a trace of warmth. It wasn't a full touch, not even a grasp, just a connection that neither of us named. And then she pulled her hand back, her composure returning like a curtain falling. But the bond was there now, undeniable, waiting beneath the quiet. The night stretched longer than I expected. My friend was upstairs, lost in his own world, and somehow it left me here again, with her. We sat at the kitchen table this time, the faint glow of a single lamp casting uneven shadows. She traced the rim of her glass absently, as if her thoughts were elsewhere. "You should go," she said at last, though her voice carried no conviction. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Do you really want me to?" Her eyes flicked up, catching mine, then falling away. She didn't answer. The silence was thick, each second beating against the next. My chest tightened. Every time she glanced up, her gaze held a question neither of us dared to voice. Then her phone buzzed, shrill, intrusive. She fumbled quickly, flipping it over without answering. I caught a glimpse of the screen, a message from a name I didn't recognize. Her jaw tightened, a flicker of something like shame crossing her face. "Sorry," she whispered, though it sounded more like regret than apology. I wanted to ask who it was. I didn't. Instead, I said, "You're hiding something." Her laugh was soft, almost bitter. "And you're not." The air between us shifted again, heavier, more fragile. She leaned back in her chair, but the distance only made the tension sharper. I pushed myself to stand, moving toward her before I thought better of it. She didn't stop me. My hand hovered above her shoulder, then lowered, lightly, barely there. She stilled, breath caught, but she didn't move away. "You can't," she whispered, though she didn't finish the sentence. "I know." My voice was unsteady, "but I can't not." Her lips parted. For a heartbeat, we were so close. Her warmth pulling me in, the faint scent of her perfume clinging to the air. Her eyes searched mine, lingering, almost daring me. And then, footsteps overhead. A door closing. My friend shifting around above us. We froze. She pressed back against the chair, hand rising to touch mine where it still rested on her shoulder. Not pushing me away, holding me there, trembling just slightly. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured. "Then tell me to go," I said. Her fingers curled lightly around mine. She didn't let go. The silence stretched, breaking in small pieces, her breath uneven, my pulse hammering in my ears, the creak of the house settling like it might betray us. I leaned closer without meaning to. The space between us narrowed to nothing but a whisper. Her eyes flicked down, then back to mine. She didn't move, didn't resist. And just as the moment teetered, ready to fall into something neither of us could undo, she pulled back. Only slightly, enough to stop what almost happened. But her hand was still on mine, still holding. The refusal was there, but so was the pull, stronger now than ever. I avoided the house for a few days, but avoiding her only sharpened the need. When I finally returned, the silence seemed charged, like the walls remembered everything we hadn't said. She was in the living room, a book resting forgotten in her lap. When she looked up, her expression flickered, relief, then restraint. "You came back," she said. I couldn't stay away. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Her lips parted as if to protest, but nothing followed. Instead, she closed the book, fingers trembling as they pressed against the cover. I sat across from her, too close. The air seemed thinner here, like every breath belonged to us alone. "You don't understand what this means," she whispered. "Then tell me." Her eyes locked onto mine, and for once, she didn't look away. "If anyone knew, your friend, the neighbors, anyone, what would they think?" I leaned forward, my hand brushing against hers on the book. "I don't care." Her breath hitched. She pulled her hand back, but not before my fingertips caught the edge of her skin. It felt like touching fire, brief, dangerous, unforgettable. You should care, she said, voice breaking. You're young. Whatever this is, it could ruin you. I shook my head, the words coming low, unsteady. The only thing ruining me is pretending I don't want you. That stopped her. She leaned back, eyes closing for a moment, as if steadying herself. When she opened them again, there was no denial, only fear wrapped tightly around desire. I stood, moving closer, drawn like gravity. She didn't retreat this time. My hand lifted, hesitated, then brushed a strand of hair from her face. The softness lingered against my fingers longer than it should have. Her breath caught, audible in the stillness. You can't, she said again, but her voice was almost a plea. I already have. My hand slid lower, just grazing her cheek. Her eyes closed, her body leaning ever so slightly toward mine, as though caught between resistance and surrender. I could feel the warmth of her breath near my lips, the trembling pause of a heartbeat that begged for more. You don't know what you're asking, she whispered. I do, I said, leaning closer. I'm asking you not to push me away. The space between us vanished until only a breath remained. My pulse hammered, my chest rising against hers. I could feel the tremor in her hands as they lifted, half reaching for me, half holding me back. She opened her eyes, meeting mine with a look that held every answer and no escape. And then, her voice, barely audible, breaking the silence like a confession. If you kiss me now, I won't stop you. Her words, if you kiss me now, I won't stop you, hung between us like a flame no one dared touch. But before I could move, before the space could close, a voice echoed from the stairs. Mom. We sprang apart, like guilty children. My friend's footsteps descended halfway before pausing. He didn't come in, just called again, impatient. You seen my phone charger? Her hand pressed against my chest, urging me back. Her eyes, wide and urgent, begged me not to say a word. I swallowed hard. It's probably upstairs, she called out, her tone perfectly steady. A muttered curse, retreating footsteps, a door slamming. Silence again. But the silence was different now. Sharper, laced with the panic of almost being discovered. She dropped her hand from my chest as though it burned. I could still feel the ghost of her touch, the thrum of her pulse echoing in my own. This has to stop, she whispered. Her voice wavered, betraying the lie. I shook my head. You don't mean that. She turned away, pacing. I watched her hands, restless, opening and closing, as though holding on to something invisible. I heard you, I said softly. What you said. You didn't mean to, but you admitted it. Her shoulders tensed. And if I did? I moved closer, closing the space she tried to create. Then I need to know the truth. She spun toward me, eyes flashing. The truth? The truth is that I've been pretending not to see it. The way you look at me. The way I can't stop thinking about you. The words hit me like a confession she'd been holding back for years. My breath caught. Her own chest rose and fell, unsteady. But it's wrong, she said quickly, her voice breaking. You're my son's friend. People would never understand. I reached for her arm. She tried to pull back, but not hard enough. My fingers closed around her wrist, feeling the tremor there. What if I don't care what they think? Her eyes locked on mine. For a heartbeat, she didn't move. Then, with a sharp inhale, she brushed past me, close enough that her shoulder grazed mine. You should, she whispered at my ear, her breath warm, shattering what little restraint I had left. The room felt too small now, every step she took filling the air with more electricity. I followed her, helpless, my hand catching hers before she could leave. She froze, back turned, our fingers tangled in an unspoken decision neither of us could undo. Slowly, she turned, eyes wide, not resisting, not fleeing. This is dangerous, she said, voice trembling. I held her gaze. Then let it be dangerous. Her breath shuddered, her lips parting as if to protest. Instead, she stayed, rooted, caught between fear and want. The choice was already made. Her hand trembled in mine, but she didn't pull away. The room felt suspended, like even the clock had stopped ticking. I could hear nothing but her breathing, uneven, too fast, and my own pulse hammering in answer. Say something, I whispered. Her eyes flicked to mine, then down to where our hands tangled. If I say yes, there's no undoing it. I stepped closer, closing the last of the distance until her shoulder brushed my chest. My voice lowered. "And if you say no?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she tilted her head, as if searching for courage in the silence. I lifted my hand, brushing lightly against her cheek. She didn't flinch. The warmth of her skin seared my fingers, the fragility of the moment sharper than any touch. "You're too young," she whispered, though her body leaned toward me. "Then stop me," I murmured, my thumb grazing the corner of her mouth. Her eyes fluttered shut for a heartbeat, then opened again, brimming with fear and longing. The air between us was thick, each breath shared, stolen. "You don't know what this could cost me," she said, voice breaking. "I do," I replied. "And I'm still here." The words seemed to shatter something in her. She exhaled sharply, almost a sob, and before I could second-guess myself, she leaned into me. My arms wrapped around her instinctively, pulling her closer, the world narrowing to the press of her body against mine. It wasn't a kiss, not yet. It was more fragile than that. The way her forehead rested against my shoulder, the way my hand slid up her back, anchoring her. She held on tightly, as though letting go would mean losing something she couldn't bear. "I've tried so hard not to feel this," she whispered against my collar. I tightened my hold. "And now?" She pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. For the first time, there was no mask, no careful composure, just her, raw and unguarded. "Now I'm tired of fighting it." The words were the choice. Clear, irrevocable. Slowly, she lifted a hand to my face, her fingers brushing along my jaw. I leaned into her touch, my breath catching. Our lips hovered a breath apart, every second stretching longer, heavier. "If we do this," she began. "There's no going back," I finished. Her eyes closed, and for a heartbeat, everything stilled. The fear, the guilt, the danger, they were still there, but underneath them was something stronger, recognition. When she opened her eyes again, I understood. So did she. We moved at the same time, not careful anymore, not hesitant. The kiss came like surrender and confession in one, breaking open everything we'd tried to hold back. It wasn't perfect, it was messy, trembling, desperate, but it was real. And in that moment, we both knew. There was no more pretending. The kiss lingered longer than it should have, yet not long enough. When we finally parted, her hand stayed against my chest, her forehead leaning into mine as though she couldn't quite let go. For a while, neither of us spoke. The house was too quiet, every sound outside muffled, like the world had respectfully stepped aside. "I don't know how to explain this," she whispered. "You don't have to," I said. My thumb brushed gently over her knuckles, grounding both of us. Her eyes softened, though the weight of everything unsaid was still there. "You're young. People will judge. They'll say I should have known better." I squeezed her hand. "They don't know us. They don't know this." She looked at me then, fully, without the practiced walls she always carried. Vulnerability, raw and real, flickered across her face. She reached up, fingertips brushing my cheek as if memorizing me. "And what do you know? That I've never wanted something more," I said, voice steady now, no longer hiding. The words landed, and I saw them soften her, undo her. She exhaled, almost smiling, though her eyes glistened as if she wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. I pulled her closer, wrapping her into me. She came willingly, her arms sliding around my waist, her head resting against my shoulder. The warmth of her body pressed into mine, and for the first time, there was no fear in the touch, only acceptance. We stayed like that, quiet, breathing in sync. The tension that had haunted every glance between us finally melted into something tender, something steady. "You know this changes everything," she murmured against me. I kissed the top of her head, slow, deliberate. "Good. I wanted to." She chuckled softly, a sound that felt like release. Her hand slipped into mine, fingers intertwining with an ease that spoke of something inevitable. For a while, we didn't move. The clock ticked. The world outside kept spinning. But here, in the quiet, it felt like time belonged to us. Eventually, she leaned back, her face inches from mine, searching me again. Not with doubt this time, but with wonder. "Maybe I was afraid of being seen," she said softly. "But you never stopped looking." I smiled, brushing my forehead gently against hers. "And I'm not going to." Her eyes closed, her lips curving into the smallest smile. then I think we'll be okay. The fear was still there, the risks unchanged. But in that moment, it no longer mattered. We had chosen each other, and that choice filled the silence with something steady, something real. We sat close, her hand in mine, the warmth of her body pressed lightly against my side. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was ours. And for the first time, that felt like enough. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?